street courses, sometimes qualifying is the race, but not always the case. Nothing guaranteed for Siegel today.
You see a lot of chaos, a lot of attrition here on the streets of St. Petersburg. This runway down into turn one, a lot of passing opportunities. Only half the pole winners converting to race wins.
Give me as many shots of the dock as you can. We want to see that today. It is a beautiful morning, and drivers are strapped in and just about ready to get the season started. Let's head trackside to begin 2024.
St. Petersburg. Race fans, here's your Grand Marshal for the INDY NXT by Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Kevin Edmonds, Area Manager, Bridgestone Firestone Retail Operations, to give the command.
Drivers, start your engines!
21 Dolores fired here, ready to go in the streets of St. Petersburg at the Albert Whitted Airport, using the runway for the front stretch. Let's take a look at how they are going to line up. And the top four, the top two rows were separated by 0.03 of a second. That was the difference. Nolan Siegel is first pole, highest returning point scorer, third last year with a couple of wins in the Menlo Ventures car, and in the Abel construction car, it's Jacob Abel, who finished third in this race last year.
And on row two, we talked about Miles Rowe, last year's USF Pro champion, using that scholarship alongside Force Indy with HMD. On the inside row two and third, Louis Foster, race winner from last year, coming back in the Novara Tech and Copart car for Andretti Global.
Michael D'Orlando starts in the Priority Technology Holdings car, the USF 2000 champ 2 years ago, but he's had some trouble getting away on the grid. Reese Gold in a Ticket Clinic car, won on the streets of Detroit last year.
Caio Collet in that very Brazilian flag looking car. It'll be hard to pick out some of these new cars. HMD running the number 18 for Caio Collet inside row 4 and 7. Bryce Aron in the Jaguar Land Rover of Chesterfield car outside of row 4.
Josh Pearson has the open context car. First full season, was splitting between sports cars last year. And Jamie Chadwick now in the Vex car still with Andretti Global starting 10th.
I'm really impressed with her pace this weekend, but inside of row 6, Jonathan Brown, an Irish driver, one of 2 Irish drivers in the field this year. In that 23 car, Christian Bogle returning in the Pelican car for HMD Motorsports, outside of row 6 in the 12th starting spot.
Euban Sundermore starts in the S-Team car for Abel. He did 4 races last year, but he is still a rookie. And James Rowe now back for season number 3 with Andretti in the Topcon car, finished 7th in the championship last year.
Inside of row 8, Salvador D'Alba Jr., the Grupo Indy car out of Mexico, as a rookie alongside Jack William Miller as part of the Miller Vinatieri Motorsports. People from Indianapolis might recognize that name, in the Patterson Dental Haven car.
Nolan Aller from Michigan turned 22 this weekend. He's won a couple of the SCCA runoffs. Callum Hedge is a rookie from New Zealand. He was the Formula Regional Americas champion last year.
Niels Colin in the inside of row 10, starting that 19th, the Super B lithium battery car. Outside of row 10, Josh Mason did some Formula 2 races last year. He's trying his hand at Indy NXT for Abel Motorsports.
And Lindsay Brewer is in the C4 Ultimate Energy car, the 26-year-old San Diego State graduate making her Indy NXT debut. All right, let's find out what it's going to take today. Kimball's Keys.
You know, it is all about evolving track conditions on a street circuit. Every lap, every corner, the track changes, it grips up. We had some rain overnight that's going to change things. These Indy cars have qualified and done a warm-up since these guys have last seen the track. And with 21 cars on the grid, you have a DNF. You're not taking 10th or 15th points. You're taking 20 first place points. So every point matters in the championship. We've seen some heavyweight fights go down to the wire. I think 2024 is going to be no different.
Michael D'Orlando did stall on the grid. He got it going. He keeps his 5th place starting position, so it is time. Nolan Siegel, green and black, has the pole position. Jacob Abel has more black on that Abel Motorsports car. Miles Rowe inside of row 2. Louis Foster, both are championship contenders. D'Orlando, Gold, row 3 on the main straightaway. Here we go. It's time for INDY NXT by Firestone in 2024. Green from St. Pete. Early jump for Nolan Siegel. Abel trying to hang on around the outside. Rowe's going to try to duck it up inside. Side by side for the lead up front. Side by side, 3 wide further back in the field. Who comes out in front? It's Siegel.
Cleanly through 1, 2, 3, maybe a little bumping and banging further back. They move to the inside to defend that overtaking lane down into turn 4. Reese Gold with a bunch of drivers. Caio Collet trying to make his way past. Not able to. Side by side through these concrete canyons is really tough.
No change in the top 4. They are as they run. There you see him there, and a big wiggle for Miles Rowe. He's got Louis Foster right on his gearbox.
These guys settling in, trying to see if they can chase down Nolan Siegel. Louis Foster was really disappointed with the new qualifying format for INDY NXT this year. Felt like he got caught out by a red flag and wasn't able to show his true pace. A little further back, Salvador D'Alba defending down into turn 10.
It's a different qualifying format this year, more in line with IndyCar. There are so many cars. It was really a challenge to find open track last year, so they split them up into groups last year. Here is Jamie Chadwick off the pace, coming on to the straightaway.
Looks like she had a little bit of a trouble down into 10, and it carried on into turn 13, 14 at the end. A late move for Jack Miller under the 22 car of Euban Sunderworthy down into turn 1. Miller gets the job done, has some clear track ahead.
So Miller moves up into 14th position. That's Reese Gold. He's picked up a spot in 5th.
You can see these cars dancing around as they try and put the power down. Those Firestone tires still coming up to 10. We get a replay of Jamie Chadwick here. Oh, that is a late move for Josh Pearson, turfing her off. I'm sure the stewards will be looking at that.
So wait and see if there's any action on that. There is Josh Pearson in that green and white, light green and white HMD number 14 car. Bryce Aron right behind him. We got Jonathan Brown right behind him. And here is Chadwick coming back through, getting past Lindsey Brewer. 2 ladies in the field this year. Chadwick back for year number 2. Showed a lot of pace at the end of the season, really strong. And you mentioned this, she had good pace throughout the weekend. She was top 5, top 6 in the practice sessions.
She spent a lot of time working on her physical fitness over the winter. I think she was surprised a little bit by the physicality of these INDY NXT cars. And coming from racing in Europe, championships under her belt, she'd never seen these racetracks. So now there's a lot that she knows that she didn't know last year. So that second year experience really coming to the fore.
This is a really good start for Miles Rowe, and he has got maybe the championship favorite right behind him and has held off Louis Foster at this point. And let's keep in mind with Miles Rowe, coming off that scholarship season last year at USF Pro 2000, he basically has 3 seasons of Formula Car racing, and here is Foster going to use his experience to get that spot going into turn number 10. No harm for Miles Rowe. It is run laps, stay in the championship mix today, and get some experience.
And in the past, one of the small complaints, I would say small, because when you're looking for any complaint about Miles Rowe, they had to be really small, was that maybe he got a little too worked up, wasn't as consistent, had some DNFs. The more laps he can run, the more he can learn from a guy like Louis Foster right in front, learn from his teammate Nolan Siegel at HMD Motorsports. He will just carry that pace further and further and further and be a competitor all year long.
Well, we mentioned that Reese Gold in that yellow ticket clinic car picked up a spot at the start. It was determined that he did a no-no. He's going to have to give up 3 spots, penalized for jumping the start. So Reese Gold is going to have to drop back to 8. So Collet, D'Orlando, and Bryce Aron are going to be able to pick up a spot. So let's watch for that yellow car. He is on the outside, and he ducks right into the middle.
Before it goes. He's in the other lane before the green flag ever comes out. That is absolutely a jump start. Stewart's making the right call there. The rule is you have to stay in line until the green flag comes out. Once the green is out, you're racing. You don't have to wait for the start line, but you have to wait for that green flag. So how he manages giving up these positions will be very interesting to watch. He's doing it now.
There's 1. There's 2. Here's 3. 4 is going to try to go with him as well. Josh Pearson is thinking about that. Gold does hang on to that spot, but Pearson is right there to attack, and he might have a run going down into turn 4 here.
It's so hard when you're out of rhythm like that. You have to let cars by to then pick it right back up.
You're a lot faster than these guys. You'll get them back. Long race.
There's still 40 laps to go in this race, Kevin. Radio transmission there to Reese Gold, settling him down, keeping him calm. 40 laps, you got plenty of time. You're faster, just pick them back off. And you know who's been very, very quick the last couple of laps? Louis Foster, after he cleared Miles Rowe, is starting to drive up to the back of Jacob Abel in the front. He was almost half a second faster than Jacob Abel in front of him that last lap.
Let's check in on Jamie Chadwick now, who had the contact with Josh Pearson and fell all the way from mid-pack back to the back. DJ, what do you know?
Well, I had a chance to talk to her Andretti Global team. There is no damage on the car. She has got her head down and she is pushing ahead, but that incident is now under review from race control.
Talking about getting her head down and pushing ahead, she was a second faster than Josh Mason in front of her that last lap. So she is closing the gap. She's right there. We'll see about closing's one thing, passing's a whole nother thing.
Back up front with Nolan Siegel. Started on pole, up by a second and a half on Jacob Abel. Two experienced drivers, top three very experienced drivers, all thinking championship this season is very much within my grasp.
Well, it's an incredible ride around here at St. Peter's. We go on board with our leader. That is the view you want to have. You want to have clear track all the way up. This brake zone into turn 10. Good passing opportunity if you need it. Little bumpy, using all of the racetrack, wall to wall to wall. This chicane, when it's right, is so much fun. This 13-14 complex leading onto that long runway front straight. Seems like it goes on forever. By the end of the race,
exactly what you need to do. Two guys behind are burning up. Push to pass. Gap is 1.7, 39 to go.
lots of good information from the team about how to manage the gap to the cars behind them.
And Nolan Siegel was strong here last year, and I really think this is what got his season started. 18 years old coming into the season. It was expected to definitely be a two-year program and learning, and then he almost won this race. Finishes third in this race. That really jump-started it and really put him on the path to be in IndyCar for a few races this season.
You know, as a driver, momentum is so important, and it's easy for that momentum to get going and build its own momentum and get bigger and bigger and bigger. And if it starts in a positive mentality, it carries on that way. But if you have a bad race to start the year, if you have a third-place car and you hit the wall and finish 20th, it's so easy for that downward spiral to start. Nolan did a great job last year capitalizing, using that education, using that momentum to build forward throughout the whole season.
Penalty on Josh Pearson for avoidable contact, so the penalty will be he has to fall behind the 28 car of Jamie Chadwick, so that means he's falling all the way, almost all the way to the back. Here it is again.
And this was a late move, not even close to alongside. Jamie did a great job not to go all the way around. She gathered it up, kept it a couple wheels on the racetrack. He will continue to give up spots and go back as she is on the brakes. Oh, that is a squeeze at the apex of turn one. She's able to hold the position. Now she has to pick up some momentum and chase down the car further up the road.
Nolan Aller debut there. The red and white car is Josh Mason, who had never driven one of these cars until Friday. He thought he had an F3 program together. It fell apart. Actually, it might have been an F2 program. And got a call from Bill Abel. He had driven in New Zealand with Jacob Abel before. They knew each other a little bit and said, hey, you want to come to America? Sure. And here he is. So this is going to be a learning curve for Josh Mason, a young man from the UK this weekend. So Pearson back in 20th. He's got a little pace. Let's see what he can do making his way forward. That was Nolan Aller, by the way, in the 11 car that we saw that was dicing it up with Jamie Chadwick, and Chadwick is starting to gap a little bit. Aller also is jumping into the deep end. He's done mostly Formula Ford racing, SCCA racing, Formula Continental, which is maybe the equivalent to USF 2000 type of car, but he's done a decent amount of testing and is, I think from what I understand, getting better and better every session. Gap still the same for the leader, 1.6 seconds. Jacob Abel running in second right now, and DJ can tell us more.
Yeah, Kevin, I had a chance to go down and talk to the Abel camp, and it is full speed ahead and full out attack. They want to put the pressure on Nolan Siegel as much as possible.
And I don't think Jacob is thinking about it much, but he has to keep half an eye on his mirrors because Louis Foster continues to carry big pace. Only a couple of tenths between them in lap time. One of the things I'm watching is Miles Rowe here falling back just a little bit into the clutches of fellow rookie Caio Collet. He was a tenth of a second faster that last lap than Caio was, but Caio can see him now. He can run with him. It'll be interesting to see when he gets there what he can do with the 99 Force IndyCar Miles Rowe.
Caio Collet is a 21-year-old from Sao Paulo, racing in the U.S. for the first time, at least in cars. A little bit of go-karting back in the day for him. He has won 3 times in F3, so he's legit. Won 5 times in Formula Renault Euro Cup. Won a French F4 championship, but every track new for him this year, other than the little bit of testing that's been done starting at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway last fall. He's got a little bit of a run on Miles Rowe right here. Pearson back in the back of that green and white car trying to make their way through. This is a really good battle mixing it up. There are multiple races going on. You've got up front, and then you've got back here from 17th to 20th. Mason in the red car trying to go around the outside of Chadwick.
Does Jamie Chadwick have a problem here?
Yeah, she's going to duck down into pit lane, so. And I stepped on what she was saying. Let's see.
Front right, damn it. Front right.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Little bit of a squeeze there from Niels Colon. Slides out. This is a left-hander coming up. He bounces off the curb. I don't know that there was any contact. I think the stewards would call that a racing incident. They may review it still. They're going to look at that right side, see if it's suspension damage. See what she had to say about it.
Damage. Abby, can you describe it? Front right.
She made contact on that right rear as well, but they are bringing a piece of suspension out. Those Andretti Global mechanics are pretty good. I raced for them back in 14 years ago now in 2010, and they'll get that suspension changed. She'll at least get some more laps under her belt, continue that education that she's started last year and continues this year.
Still worth getting some laps in to learn what you can. And while we have been relatively clean so far, a much different race than what we saw last year. This is a street course, and just finishing the race is likely going to have an opportunity for you to score a few extra points.
And one of the things that happens as these drivers, this is the first race they've done since September of last year. Some of them raced in sports car events, things over the winter to keep their eye in, but in an open wheel Indy NXT car, or a USF Pro for Miles Rowe, drivers like that, they haven't done a lot of races. As this race develops, as you get a little fatigued, looks like the head surrounds come loose on Niels Colon here. That is not where that's supposed to be. That's not comfortable. He'll have to bring that to pit lane.
And then we saw... Yeah, he's going to get a mechanical black flag to come in. And we saw James Rowe on pit lane, so we'll try to find out what the issue is for the TopCon Andretti driver. And then there's Nolan Siegel, who's pretty comfy right now. Managing the gap. Still at 1.6 seconds on Jacob Abel, who is also managing his gap to Louis Foster. All right, let's start with Jamie Chadwick. TJ, what do you know there?
It is indeed suspension damage for Jamie Chadwick. They're doing a lot of work on the right front of the car, trying to get that repaired as quickly as possible. They're not sure if they're going to be able to get her back out, but they're doing everything they can. Also, James Rowe down into pit lane. Looks like they are doing work on the left side of that car. The rear hood link is off, and they are trying to repair something just behind the radiator. Not entirely sure what that would be, Charlie.
Yeah, that looks like something within the engine programming. I don't know if they've got a leak or something like that. But if that threw a high temperature alarm or a low oil pressure, something like that, if the turbo maybe looking like they're looking at the turbo inlet tube. So with these turbo engines, you got to make sure everything's running right, otherwise you start losing horsepower really, really quickly.
All right, let's go back and check in again on what happened to Niels Colon, the 22-year-old from the Netherlands. Look at him in that orange and black car and just
gets on the brakes and the head surround pops up. Now
I have not seen that before.
I've never seen that. It is a removable piece to help the drivers get in and out. It's made it's a big safety item. It is made of energy-absorbing foam. So in an incident, it cushions the head and gives that head some room to move and absorb the energy. So I've never seen it pop up like that. Usually once they're locked in, they're pretty solidly in there and detented. So they're trying to figure out why that happened and how to keep it from happening again before they send him back out.
Siegel's picked up a couple of tenths on that lap. Foster's closed in just a touch on Jacob Abel.
Looking at the lap times, that last lap passed, Michael D'Orlando had the fastest lap just by a couple of tenths over Nolan Siegel. Nolan Siegel, Louis Foster, Jacob Abel, almost identical times. Michael D'Orlando running just that little bit quicker. Caio Collet starting to lose a little pace. I don't know if he's getting into the dirty air, that wash behind Miles Rowe. But as you get closer, you lose grip. These wings on the car produce a lot of downforce, a lot of grip. When you get up behind someone, you get that dirty air, and as a driver, you start to feel it. Your head bounces around, you feel it in the steering wheel, and you lose that load as you get on the brakes and try and turn through the corners. You almost get to this imaginary buffer that you can't drive through. That's why catching a car is one thing, passing them is something very different.
3 on pit lane right now. Let's find out more from DJ.
Yeah, down here in the number 33 pit, and it is a lot of confusion. Not sure what happened there to that headrest. It just kind of popped on out. They are all working on it here at this point, trying to get the 33 back out and on their way, but things not looking great.
And he's climbing out.
Like I said, it is a big part of the safety piece around the driver protection in the cockpit. So I don't know if it's something more serious than that that's happening.
So meanwhile, back up front, no change in the early going. Back there in that dark blue, light blue car for Andretti Global. Actually, this is Andretti Cape, a new partnership with Cape Motorsports, who won 14 championships in USF 2000, the last with this driver, Michael D'Orlando, a couple of years ago. This deal got finalized, not just announced, but I know it wasn't finalized until this week. And for Michael D'Orlando, this happens. You see it all the time. There's nothing guaranteed beyond this weekend, so he is holding up his end of the bargain right now. He's got to produce and try to get more people on board with his program. I know this, he's massively talented, he's fast. He won 4 USF Pro races last year with Turn 3, and he is delivering so far.
Yeah, really good to see the opportunity he has. As you said, he's got a lot of talent, a lot of ability. He's doing well, he's doing everything he needs to now. He'll just stay in that catbird seat behind this Miles Rowe, Caio Collet train, drive up to the back. If an opportunity presents itself, I know that he will take advantage and get past these cars. And then you're talking about finishing just off the podium in 4th, and that would be an incredible result for a deal that happened in the last few days.
Well, he's very familiar with Kate brothers, Nicholas and Dominic, and their partnership now with Andretti Global works very nicely. Collet's got a little run on Miles Rowe here, trying to get to 4th, coming down into turn 1. Still not to the halfway point of this race. And 45 laps. Think about this. This is, about 10 more laps than the Firestones need to go, at least 8 more than they'll go in a stint in the IndyCar race.
So in those last 10 laps, these tires are be screaming. The drivers, with the work they do now to take care of them, keep them from sliding, keep them from locking up, that's when it starts to pay dividends. So part of this cat and mouse that's going on is the drivers taking care of their tires, staying close, trying to force a driver in front of them. We talked about, or we heard Jacob Abel's team radio to him, hey, keep the pressure on, keep the pressure on. Part of that is tire life, tire wear, tire longevity. These Firestone tires do exactly as they're designed to. And at the end, having done 45 hard laps, it's a little cooler today, which will help, but they are still going 10-10s, 45 laps.
There was another coming together reviewed by Race Control a moment ago between Josh Pearson and Nolan Aller. Pearson in the green car, Looking outside, inside.
No real action. Good defense there from Aller front. I would have said he was a little late, a little lazy to defend. And I use that word intentionally. Defense is allowed, blocking is not. Mostly how the officials will look at that is if you beat the car to the preferred overtaking line as the leading car, that's defense. But if you follow them, if they put their nose out and you follow them out, that's a block.
Meanwhile, up front, there's going to be lap traffic coming into play soon. And Nolan Siegel's gap was about 1.6 seconds for a while. We saw it jump up to almost 2. Now, another tenth or so, up to nearly 3 seconds at this point on Jacob Abel.
You know, bud, the 76 is going to pit ahead of you when she's there, so you stay out. You go right by her as she goes down pit lane. All good. 26 to go.
So I would say that's a smart move by Juncos Hollinger Racing for Lindsey Brewer. It's one thing to let the leader go by, but to let 17 or 18 cars go by, just roll through pit lane, come back out of the tail end, run some laps, and try to learn. She's just trying to get experience here. She's done a couple of seasons of USF Pro 2000, but she's not quite ready to run with the leaders in this series.
She's not quite there on lap time, and it is really smart for the team. It's also one of the things I was thinking Nolan Siegel has done is put the hammer down a little bit, drive that gap up between himself and Jacob Abel so that if that 76 car doesn't come to pit lane, doesn't just get out of the way and he has to navigate his way around her in front of him, he has a little extra breathing room. You know, you manage the gap. He was keeping that gap at about 1.7 seconds. Now we're up over 3 seconds. I don't know how much of that is Jacob Abel's pace falling off a little bit. It's not falling off a whole lot. I think Nolan Siegel is just consistently running a 10, 2, 3 tenths quicker every lap.
Does what Nolan Siegel has done in the IndyCar transfer here at all? Getting the test at Homestead a few weeks ago.
It definitely gives him a little bit of confidence. He walks a little taller, knowing that he's driven the big cars. You know, you come back to Indy NXT, things happen a little slower here. There's a little less horsepower. He has a little more opportunity and a little more bandwidth to manage the Indy NXT car by Firestone underneath him.
And that's not the only really powerful car he's driven. He's done high-level sports car racing as well, but he drove a Super Formula car over the winter as well, and I'm told that is very comparable to an Indy car too.
Yeah, so that's a lot of ability. Great job, Lindsey Brewer, there, getting out of the way before she could get back to pit lane to stay out of the leader's way. You know, we saw in the graphic at the start, 50-50 pole winners to race conversion rate here. You never know what's going to happen on a street circuit. You never know what's going to go on. Having that extra gap, it cost him a couple of tenths that lap, but he had a couple of tenths to give back to Jacob Abel to cleanly work his way past the lap traffic.
Well, just because he's dominating here as we get very close to the midpoint does not mean that he's going to win the race. We have seen it a handful of times over the years where a driver in charge, something has gone wrong, hit the wall, mechanical, ran out of fuel a couple of years ago for Christian Rasmussen. That was the case for that one. Both he and McElroy had a race win seemingly wrapped up at the time.
Lindsey Brewer doing everything she can to stay out of the way, but there's nowhere to hide in these concrete canyons, the streets of St. Petersburg. She's doing a really good job, and it's not easy.
So this is part of the learning experience. We had originally heard that she was going to pit, but they've decided, you know what, you're going to have to learn how to manage traffic, kind of like a sports car driver does in multiple classes. So the fast driver's coming through right now.
Louis Foster driven right up to the back of Jacob Abel. He had to work his way past Miles Rowe earlier in the race and has just stalked Jacob Abel. There's another 20 laps for him to try and figure out how to get past that 51 car in front of him, and 20 laps for Jacob to put up a stout defense.
Yeah, Foster is probably thinking, if I can get by him, I might be able to have something for Siegel, but Abel is going to try to hang on to those points as much as he can. All right, back to pit lane and DJ Clark.
Thanks, Kevin. I'm down here with Garrett Kristalik of Firestone. This is Firestone's second year jumping on board with Indy NXT. How's everything going by your estimations?
Well, it's great. We've learned so much from last year. We've made a couple of tire changes going into this year. This particular tire is exactly the same as the kids ran here on the streets of St. Pete last year. It's a nice, durable, consistent road and street course. So all of our road and street courses, with the exceptions of the very fast speed ones, are all going to have the same construction. So each tire on the car is a different construction, but all in all, this same set of specifications goes to each one of the events.
Well, in having that consistency across the year, how much feedback do you get from the drivers to be able to keep that consistency and keep it all together?
Yeah, so that's good. So as these drivers develop, we want to make sure we give them the tools to be able to succeed. We want to give them things that they're going to see in IndyCar as they go up in the series, and we want to give them something that's consistent so they can come to a track that they've been before on a tire that they've driven before and just have that consistency and just understand, you know, they're going to learn at that point. They don't have to adapt to many new changes to that.
Well, they're doing a great job of giving us some great racing action. Kara, thank you so much. And back to you, Kevin.
All right, thank you, DJ. Great work on track today, too, from these young drivers. I've been really impressed with what Miles Rowe has done running in 4th position. Caio Collet, same thing for him. This is all new. I know he has high-level experience in the Formula One ladder, but, you know, he's learning new tracks, learning new teams, learning how the weekend goes over here, so great start for him. We've talked about D'Orlando. About Bryce Aron, back there in 7th position, another one of the Andretti Global drivers. This is the first street race that Bryce Aron has ever competed on. So he is from Illinois, but he's been racing in Europe since he was about 16 or 17 years old, went over and did British Formula Ford, won the Team USA scholarship, did well in that in, I think it was 2020, raced in British F3, which is now GB3, and has done some racing in F3 and won a couple of races last year in the European Championship that he was in.
Well, knowing how competitive that British F3 Championship is myself from my own experience, he knows how to race. He knows how to race hard. It's about learning these new tracks like you talked about. Some of these drivers have great high-level experience, but you don't know how the race is going to be officiated, how the weekend runs. You talk about that, and it's the cadence of practice into qualifying into the race. How and when you start to turn that intensity up so that you peak at the right moment. Do I think they're at 110% or full tilt at the moment? Not quite. If it was me, I think Nolan Siegel's doing a great job of managing that gap. He's got over 4.5 seconds back to Jacob Abel. If I'm Jacob Abel, I'm pretty close to flat out because I know Louis Foster's right there. But some of these drivers, they're building into it, right? Caio Collet wants to finish this weekend. Michael D'Orlando definitely needs to keep the car clean and get the result without crash damage. Bryce Aron, you know, those rookies, laps and laps and laps. Repetitions are really what matters.
Well, one of the great things about motor racing is you have the opportunity to essentially talk to the coaches during the event. And when you want to check on a team, pretty good chance that A.J. Smith is going to be able to tell us about one of the cars because he manages 10 of them, DJ.
Yes, he does. Down here with A.J. Smith in pit lane. And I want to start off with one of the rookies this year, Miles Rowe. Miles looked like he was a little bit off the pace in free practice 1, and then by the time we came into practice 2 in qualifying, he found pace and came alive.
That's fact. Miles is doing a great job for us. But basically, the off-season, most of our tests got rained out. So not a lot of our guys that are new to this series have gotten a lot of time in the car. So he's just building up to it. He's doing a fantastic job right now.
He certainly is. Another one of your drivers in the form of Nolan Siegel, dare I say, dominating at the front. What advice are you giving him?
Yeah, I don't want you to say dominating yet until it's over. But we don't need to talk to Nolan. Nolan's got a lot of experience leading these races now. He's obviously got some IndyCar stuff coming up. The kid's the real deal, so we don't have to tell him anything.
You don't have to tell him anything when he's leading like that. AJ, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
They're thinking and hoping no caution. Let's have a green to checkers race. All right, let's check in on one of the other newcomers, Josh Mason with Able Motorsports. Look in the back, the red and white car.
Zoomed all the way in here on NBC. That's Josh Mason, the 21 car, coming out of the last corner. Hard contact on that left rear. Just using the wall to square up the car at the exit of the corner.
He's still on track, I believe.
He is still on track, maintaining reasonable pace. Pretty stout cars Dallara builds. We'll see if he's able to continue that speed. there will be very little of the Firestone riding left on that left rear of that car.
It's the same car builder that builds the Indy cars, Dallara. And when I was talking with Marcus Armstrong after qualifying yesterday, I said, did you tap the wall? He said, yeah, I did 4 times. Dallara builds an amazing car. These things are almost indestructible.
And getting reports from pit lane that no damage on the 21 car, so he's able to keep going. You know, again, great F2, high-level experience for Josh Mason coming over here. He's got a lot to learn. These racetracks are not easy. And it looks like Louis Foster's fallen back a little bit from Jacob Abel, just not quite able to maintain the pace. Jacob's picked it back up, matching Nolan Siegel out front. He's more than 5 seconds behind, but he's able to increase that lap time pace, pull away from Louis Foster just a little bit.
There's D'Orlando in 6th, making up some ground on Collet. So top 6 are still tied together pretty good. And a little further back, we saw Jack William Miller in his debut pick up a position just a little while ago. Different colors in the road to Indy. He's been running predominantly a red car, and if you're thinking about the name, wait a minute, is he related to? Yes, he is. His dad, Dr. Jack Miller, drove in the Indy 500 3 times in the late 90s and runs this team along with Adam Vinatieri. That's the Miller Vinatieri, the legendary kicker, all-time leading scorer in the National Football League with the New England Patriots and the Indianapolis Colts, making his debut, doing a nice job here today on the streets of St. Pete in the Patterson Dental and Haven Go By Som car. And then there's Juven Sundermore, rookie this season, 4 races under his belt in the offseason. He graduated from Wisconsin, engineering degree, and now can focus full-time on motorsport. And yes, he graduated. He's 20 years old. Really bright young man, 4.0 the last couple of semesters, and still in the learning curve a little bit with just 4 races last year. But think about this, how tight it is. I think he qualified 13th, half second off. You're a half second off. You should be a little closer than that to the front.
Well, I would challenge anyone at home to take their phone out and start a stopwatch out and try and time what half a second looks like.
Yeah.
How far do you go at 160 miles an hour in half a second? You go 30, 40, 50 meters, yards, a third of a football field. It is not a whole lot of different time.
Oh, by the way, I'll clear this up. So many drivers that do go to school are engineering majors. Actually, computer science, I think even better. If you can do IT, you're always employable. I wish I had those skills. Here's Nolan Siegel. Added another couple of seconds on that gap. 6.2. Nolan Siegel is off and cruising. Look at that gap. Almost half the straightaway.
We got it.
Oh, that's
Caio Collet
running 5th.
Off in the grass. That looks like the last corner. We saw Jamie Chadwick get out in the dirt. He's going to be able to get back on speed. I bet that incident happened coming out of the chicane in turn 12. If you drop a wheel coming out of 12, you very often end up all the way down in 13 because it is so fast.
Let's see if we can find it.
He is sideways in the dirt before he ever gets to 13, slides through all the way across, heads up driving from Michael D'Orlando behind him. A couple of the other drivers to not get collected by that spinning car coming across the racetrack.
Yeah, you get the big eyes when you're seeing that ahead of you And now D'Orlando inherits 5th now. Top 5 run for him so far. There's Collet, has been quick. Still got a chance to work his way back up into the top 10 from where he's at right now.
Well, and these cars that are running close together, Jacob Abel, Louis Foster, just about a second apart, they have the opportunity to get a little extra horsepower help. The push to pass is an additional 50 horsepower boost. You get an extra 150 seconds total for the course of the race. You can use it whenever you want. So you can use it, it could be push to pass, it could be used as a push to defend, it can be used as push for fast lap. But it's only available 1 lap after the restart. So you can't use it on starts and restarts, but when the leader hits the alternate start finish just before the last corner, it becomes active, and it's up to these drivers to manage it. It's another thing to manage while they're racing between concrete walls at 160 miles an hour. Car in the wall.
Oh no, that is Bryce Aron with heavy contact.
That's the exit of turn 10. Heavy braking in there. We've gone full course yellow. The safety car, that Honda Civic Type R, will come out and pick up the leader. Great job, Nolan Siegel. And looking at our broadcast booth, got to pace car speed immediately and let the pace car get out in front of him. That's going to be some wall repair. There's a little bit of concrete damage on that concrete K-wall.
Let's make sure Bryce Aron is okay first. The AMR safety team, just like that, is there. And we've heard radio reports that he is fine, so that's great news. Let's see it.
Comes in just a little fast, almost saves it, misses the tire barrier, and just slaps into the wall. And then the second impact folds up that right front suspension.
So that, 8-second lead gone.
Yep.
And two very experienced drivers. One of them, Jacob Abel, who is getting a little bit tired of being the runner-up, is ready to go. Louis Foster, thinking championship at this point. Also, pretty smart young man. He's going to be thinking points. And Miles Rowe and Michael D'Orlando on debut. So we're getting things started here with the IndyCar opener coming up on NBC today at noon, 12:30 green flag. Here's what's next. A little break before Barber Motorsports Park coming up at the end of April. The month of May, it's Indianapolis. Doubleheader on the road course for Indy NXT by Firestone. Street racing in Detroit. Can't wait to always get back to Road America. Laguna Seca, make note of that. It moves to the summertime. Mid-Ohio, Iowa, the oval part of the calendar is what stands out. All on Peacock this year. What is it, 4 of the last 5 are oval races to decide the championship.
So the championship, you got to be thinking, okay, I may be stronger on ovals. That experience will come to play out. Some of these drivers may think, okay, I can give up some points. I can give away some points to these road and street circuit racers. When we get to the oval stretch of the schedule, that's when I come to the fore. Lindsey Brewer being a lap down, doing a good job, just getting out of the way, falling to the back, letting those lead cars cycle up, so it'll be a clean restart of cars racing cars, no traffic in the way. So that's a smart move from that 76 car from Lindsey Brewer, just falling to the back, keep cycling, keep getting the laps, keep getting the experience.
So it's a brand new race. We get ready to restart here with somewhere around 10 laps or so to go. What is Jacob Abel thinking? Maybe DJ can give us a little insight.
Well, I can indeed tell you, I had a chance to talk to his team. I asked him if they were thinking about long-term and thinking about championship, or if they were thinking about race wins. Kevin, they told me race wins. That's why we're here.
I believe it, especially until you got your first. Once you've maybe gotten that out of the way, you're content to score second place points. But if the opportunity is there, Jacob Abel is going for it.
And all of these 3 drivers up front, Nolan Siegel, Jacob Abel, Louis Foster, they have the experience to know if a move is good or not, right? They can make a pass that they know will be clean, that they can protect themselves. He can go for the win without risking a podium result. But if you win a lot of races, the championship takes care of itself, Kevin.
We've had a full weekend of racing here. IMSA was here with the VP Racing Sports Car Challenge, the USF 2000, USF Pro 2000 championships here. 14-year-old Max Garcia swept USF 2000 over the weekend. Very impressive young driver. And Lockie Hughes with turn 3 won in USF Pro. Nikita Johnson, who is from the area, from St. Pete, he wins race number 2.
Max Garcia was too young to race here last year. Yeah. Turned 14 during the year last year. Comes out and sweeps the weekend. Really good job for that young driver. And, Nikita Johnson, you know, it's always nice to win at home.
It is, definitely. Nice to win anywhere, but even better at home in front of friends and family. All right, we heard about what the 51 team is thinking. What about the 39 of Nolan Siegel? Let's hear some radio.
Majority over, everybody. We have a ton start here. Be smart, you know, don't
do anything insane unless we're under a ton of pressure. You know, you could try P2P like we've talked about in the past.
So talking P2P, that push-to-pass system, it won't be active on the restart until they hit this line right there on the racetrack. So he has to get a good, clean restart. No one has the help of that extra horsepower. But when he comes around, he will likely use it. They often talk about using it out of the corner to help the momentum of the car. It's most effective for lap time and to build a gap, using it out of the slow corners.
If you want to look at who might be able to move forward a little bit, fastest lap of the race right now is Reese Gold. He had to give up 3 spots for jumping the start, fell back to 8th, and is now in 6th. Michael D'Orlando has the 2nd fastest lap, then Nolan Siegel, and then Salvador De Alba has the 4th quickest lap. Bryce Aron, 5th quickest lap so far.
So they are coming to a green this time by. The lights are out on the pace car. We heard the transmission that we were going green this time by from race control. These drivers working to get some heat, not only into the surface of those Firestone tires, but into the core as well, because that helps keep your brakes hot. So when you go to the brakes into turn 1, you don't grab a brake, lock a tire, slide past the corner. You're all ready to go. If you have to defend or if you've got a pass you think you can make, you're ready to get the car woed down and make the corner without contact.
Siegel will control the start. Abel looking for a great jump. Foster ready to pounce. Rowe, 4th in line, weaving back and forth in that Force Indy HMD car. D'Orlando, Gold. Jonathan Brown running in 7th position. D'Alba, Bogle, Collet in 10th.
Get to this last corner. Nolan Siegel's going to drop the hammer. Green.
Inside 10 to go. Off the final corner. Great restart for Nolan Siegel. He's got a gap. Watch 2nd and 3rd. Foster is going to take a look. He's got a really good run on Jacob Abel now. Will Abel defend or take the racing line? He's going to stick with the racing line. Foster's going to look inside. Not close enough. Rowe hangs on to 4th. D'Orlando 5th. Gold comes through in 6th.
That looks like Caio Collet's got his hands full with D'Alba, I believe it is, going inside of him. Going into turn 1, they're side by side, headed down to turn 4. Orlando going by Miles Rowe.
These two drivers have been battling in the road to Indy the last 3 years, and D'Orlando got the spot here.
Jack Miller looks like he had contact coming out of turn 3. Car's crabbing down the front straight.
D'Orlando did get Rowe, who's wiggling again. Gold is going to try to grab him.
Might have been some contact on that left rear of Miles Rowe coming through turn 8 into turn 9. Look at Nolan Siegel disappearing out front.
He's managed that gap, and he's already put it back past a 2nd. The battles are a little further back. And full course caution. Look at the back. That blue car gets out of sorts in the back, wiggles and slaps the wall. Gets the left rear and the left front. Looks like no one else involved. Here it is again.
He gets loose, he corrects, and that just slides him hard into the wall. And he just ends up pulling off with a damaged car into the runoff turn 4. Safety will pull him back behind the wall. This could be a very, very short full course yellow. Race control trying to get it back to green as soon as possible.
So we had no change in the top 3, but D'Orlando picked up a spot. He's now running 4th, and this is going to be a very quick yellow. Going back to green this time by. They're going through turn 8 and 9 right now.
Lights are out on the pace car. These drivers know. If I'm Jacob Abel, I'm thinking about what went right and what went wrong on that last restart. He knows Nolan Siegel's going to punch off early. Really wide entry to the last corner and get a great exit. If I'm Jacob Abel, I'm going the same line to try and stay on Nolan Siegel's bumper.
A quick mention of Jonathan Brown, 23-year-old from Dublin Iron, debut. He is running 7th right now. He's run with turn 3 the last few years for Peter Dempsey, fellow Irish driver who won Maybe the best race we've ever seen, that 4-wide finish in the Freedom 100 a few years ago. All right, let's go again with 8 to go. Nolan Siegel coming out of the final corner, the hairpin, back on the airport runway in St. Petersburg. Season opener in Indy NXT. Who's going to get it? Will Abel get any kind of a run this time? Foster will challenge. D'Orlando in a race, his only guaranteed race of the season, in 4th. Here comes Foster looking to the inside. Not close enough. D'Orlando is right on Foster's gearbox, and Rowe runs wide. Gold is going to get a spot. Jonathan Brown gets by Miles Rowe.
You can't go side by side, not very often through turn 3. Miles Rowe trying to find the momentum, clean off those Firestone tires, headed down to turn 4. They're 3 wide behind him.
And Juven Sundermorthy trying to go with De Alba, trying to fit 2 by 2, and they are still clean through there, still side by side. De Alba will maintain that position, and now here comes Collet.
And that changed Christian Bogle of the apex at turn 9, going by Sundermorthy. What great racing. That could have turned into 1, 2, maybe even 3 full course yellows. These guys kept it clean, and it's not over. They're still looking to move forward, headed down to turn 10.
That was impressive work. Clean lap. 6 to go at the line. Siegel again, a 2.5 seconds in a lap.
Push to pass is active. Jacob Abel, Louis Foster, both going to be on the button, burning it up down into turn 1.
No issue for Abel, still comes through in 2nd. D'Orlando holding off Gold for 4th right now. Brown up to 6th. Let's see that restart one more time.
Great jump for Nolan Siegel out front. Not quite as good for Jacob Abel, but he's close enough to Nolan Siegel that when Louis Foster pulls out, he gets the draft from Nolan Siegel and it pulls him up. Louis Foster can't do anything with it. Miles Rowe stuck on the outside, doesn't get down on the line, gets into the dirty part, into those marbles that have built up on the outside of the racetrack, loses all grip, all momentum, and he's a sitting duck.
Foster still challenging Abel. All podium positions, but you really want to move up a step if you can and score points. These are all championship favorites in the top 3 right now. And the driver running in 4th doesn't know if he's going to the next race. A podium helps your cause. How many times over the years have we seen drivers that had nothing guaranteed, but when you do well, the opportunities seem to come about a little easier.
Michael D'Orlando just hoping Jacob Abel and Louis Foster come to tears and he's in the catbird seat to pick up that podium. But I was going to say, points-wise, it's a 10-point swing. The delta between 2nd and 3rd place is 5 points. Louis Foster goes by Jacob Abel. That's a 10-point delta, what could be a championship contender at the end of the year.
That priority car for D'Orlando is right on Louis Foster. This is impressive. This is a teammate. D'Orlando on debut is challenging one of the championship favorites.
And look at the recovery from Reese Gold joining the back of this train in that bright yellow car. Little bit of contact here into turn 4. Miles Rowe, Caio Collet arguing. Collet's not quite alongside. They are teammates at HMD, trying to run side by side through 4, through 5, bouncing off each other in the curbs. Fortunately, not off the walls, though.
That is impressive to survive that. Rowe had 2 near misses there and had to go hard over the curbs. And the top 5 have really gapped now.
See if Josh Pearson thinking about a late move down into turn 1. That is late. He's going to slide out.
Good job. Slow it up. Get back. Juven's coming. Juven's coming. That's okay.
So what happened there? The racing line, the clean, the rubber, all the grip is to the driver's left on the front straight. He moves off of that to try and make a pass. He's on the dirtier, less grippy part of the racetrack. Can't get the car slowed down. Slides past, loses all his momentum, picks up marbles, just like happened to Miles Rowe on the restart. You get out there, you get that debris of the tire rubber that has worn off these Firestone racing tires.
Josh Mason has an issue. The Abel number 21. He is slowing, and is this going to bring out a caution? No, he's going to get, I thought he was going to be able to duck in there. He's going to come to a stop with 4 laps to go.
I wonder
if they can push him right behind that wall, likely very quickly.
We will see what race control does here. This is not an easy call for them. Up front, though, Nolan Siegel, about a second and a half over Jacob Abel. Look at Josh Mason reversing that car out of the way, trying to keep this race green.
He's trying to, at least, but he's out of the way there. Look at this, D'Orlando on Foster. That's for a podium position. Siegel, not totally checked out, but comfortable right now. Over a second. Abel has a little bit of a gap in second. The battle is for that final podium spot. Michael D'Orlando.
Since the restart, Michael D'Orlando has definitely had the bit between his teeth. I wonder if Louis Foster, in having to pass Miles Rowe and chase down Jacob Abel, burned up his tires a little bit more. D'Orlando has a little bit left in the tank with 3 laps to go. They are going to leave the car of Josh Mason there and stay green, cover it with a local yellow to protect it. But we've got the chance to race into turn 1, turn 4, turn 10. Those are your 3 best passing opportunities with 2 laps to go. Come to the white next time by.
D'Orlando's 22nd birthday present this week was the day it was announced he was going to drive for Andretti Cape this weekend. And that's the only guaranteed opportunity for him, and he might have a chance to be on the podium. Foster, though, has gapped him by a couple of car lengths, and Foster is still thinking on Jacob Abel at this point. 2, 3, 4, still very much up for grabs.
Jacob Abel has absorbed an immense amount of pressure from Louis Foster all race long. He just has to do it for a lap and a half more. Nolan Siegel, though, checking out front with a 1.6 second lead. Just has to stay clean. Jacob Abel can't make a mistake or Louis Foster and D'Orlando will pounce on him.
And by the way, no local yellow even for the Josh Mason car. It is enough out of the way. It's nowhere near the racing line, so we are clean and green as we see the white flag. One more to go in the season opener from St. Petersburg. Nolan Siegel has controlled this race. Can he do it for another 1.8 miles? And what's going to make up the rest of the podium? Abel, Foster, D'Orlando, all still in play.
I am so impressed with Michael D'Orlando. He's finding speed every lap, running right there with Jacob Abel, Louis Foster, guys we thought would absolutely be championship contenders. May not get the pass done, but man, it's impressive. From not knowing he was going to be in this race until his 22nd birthday earlier this week.
He's going to have one more chance.
This is the best opportunity. The exit of 9 and the long run along the harbor down to turn 10 here.
Abel looks pretty comfortable now in second. He's been able to hold off Foster. Foster's being able to hold off D'Orlando. Through 10, no change. One more corner for Nolan Siegel. He led the championship at times last year, won a couple of races, probably should have won a third. He's going to start off 2024 in style. Nolan Siegel begins his championship run with a win in the opener at St. Pete.
Thanks, guys. That was awesome.
Nolan Siegel starts it off, a season that is going to include IndyCar races and a chance for the teenager to qualify for the Indianapolis 500, and he's the early championship leader in INDY NXT by Firestone. Great runs by Jacob Abel and Louis Foster on the podium. D'Orlando and Gold make up the top 5.
I'm not sure driver of the day if it goes to Nolan Siegel. 50%, we saw the graphic at the start of the show today, 50% of pole sitters convert to a win. HMD and Andretti Autosport have gone back and forth. The last 4 races, they've each won 2. Nolan Siegel going flag to flag today. Totally dominant. Michael D'Orlando, 4th place. Great result as well.
And Jonathan Brown, really impressive 6th place finish for him. 2, Caio Collet, Miles Rowe, Salvador de Alba, Christian Bogle, top 10.
Great runs all the way through the field. People being smart, taking advantage of opportunities. Callum Hedge finishing 11th. Euban Sundermoor in 12th. Josh Pearson, Nolan Aller, 14th. Lindsey Brewer, 15th. Couple laps, 3 laps down. She did a really good job of staying out of people's way today, getting that experience, trying to learn and find more pace.
Well, we didn't quite go green to checkers, but it was a much cleaner race than what we saw last year. And some very impressive driving by these young drivers. Keep in mind, what did we have? 12 making their debut. 13 rookies, but 12 making their series debut on a street course.
So really clean. Hopefully that plays out in today's IndyCar race. Just coming up in just under an hour, just over an hour to green flag. Hopefully the IndyCar drivers have been watching what these Indy NXT boys did on the start. Indy NXT drivers did on the start, keep it clean through that 1, 2, 3. Last year it got pretty active at the start in IndyCar.
By the way, make sure you're tuned in right at the top at noon today. You're going to enjoy the Open to the broadcast today on NBC and right here on Peacock. 12 o'clock airtime, 12:30 the green flag. So many potential winners. You've got fast guys coming from the back with an extra set of alternate Firestones today. Joseph Newgarden on the pole. How about Romain Grosjean? Brand new situation. I'm not sure anybody expected a Firestone Fast 6 for him yesterday. He's got a chance still trying to get that first win in a dozen years or so. We love the fact that we've got legitimately 10 to 12 people that can win this race coming up today in IndyCar, and very much the same in Indy NXT. There are 5 or 6 that are going to go into each weekend thinking, really it's probably more like 8 or 10, but realistically at least 5 or 6 that can win, and Nolan Siegel is the first to do it this year.
A really great, composed, mature drive from Nolan Siegel today. Managed the gap when he needed to, grew it, but didn't take anything out of his tires. On that restart, he knew exactly what he was going to do. Dropped the hammer, pulled out a gap, and comes home cleanly with the win.
Reese Gold, his teammate, is there waiting to greet him as well as soon as he can. And DJ is right there to also greet the winner, the first one in 2024.
I am indeed. Nolan Siegel climbing out of the car here at this point. A big #1 in the air. Nolan, come over here, my friend. Flag to flag. How does it feel?
Feels amazing. It feels amazing. Yeah, we've worked hard for this. First pole this weekend, led every lap. Should have won here last year. I feel like I made a mistake and redeemed myself today. So the car was fantastic. The pace was there. Made it easy to drive. And yeah, just huge thank you to everyone at HMD. I'm so happy to start the season this way.
Well, speaking of the season, how much of a statement is this for you in your title contentions?
Yeah, I think it's definitely making a statement. I think we're going to be the car to beat this season, and I'd like to keep it up front as much as possible all the way throughout the year.
Well, best of luck to you in doing that. Nolan Siegel, your victor here on the streets of St. Petersburg.
That is the way to start off what he hopes to be a championship campaign. Let's face it, Nolan Siegel had an opportunity to go to IndyCar if he wanted this year, but nope. We're going to continue the plan, the development. We'll get a little taste of IndyCar, including a couple of weeks at the Thermal Club. We'll see IndyCar season opener coming up in just under an hour. Noon, NBC and Peacock, 12:30 green flag for the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Who you got today, Charlie?
Man, it's hard to bet against a Penske car that starts on pole, but you know, we've seen it in these Indy NXT races. It's often the unexpected driver who plays out really well. I think Joseph Newgarden's hard to bet against, though.
Felix Rosenquist, brand new situation, starting in the front row for Meyer Shank, Pato Award, Colton Herta, Romain Grosjean, and Marcus Ericsson. The front 3 rows. I had Herta coming into the weekend, and he's been quick. The Andretti Global cars are always good. All right, what a fun start to the season here today, and we'll do it again next up at Barber Motorsports Park for Indy NXT by Firestone. Championship head start. Nolan Siegel has it. The other contenders right there in the mix. Jacob Abel, Louis Foster, Michael D'Orlando, hoping to see him again at Barber. Reese Gold, the top 5. What a day. Thanks to DJ Clark, Charlie Kimball, I'm Kevin Lee. Stay tuned. IndyCar on NBC coming up at noon today from St. Petersburg. Enjoy your Sunday.